Hey, this is Shoot First, Questions Later, an informative and mildly entertaining photography podcast with a raw Aussie flavour. My name's Cameron, and here with me, as always, is William Patino.
Good evening.
And to my left is our very first guest, Warren Keelan.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on board.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Warren. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Warren out there, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you photograph? What's your full-time job?
Okay, so about 6 years ago, I bought a camera through the need to do something a little bit different with my life, and we had some life changes with myself and my wife. So I was a musician before that for about a decade.
Yeah,
and
I just learned that actually. Yeah, that was really cool. What kind of music was it?
Heavy progressive rock.
Nice.
So I was a guitarist in that band. So went from there to building websites, and so I bought a camera, and I grew up in the ocean, like surfing, all the breaks around the Illawarra, and fishing and diving and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to sort of get back in the water and I guess create images of the sea, and bought a camera and got into some landscape photography, and like a couple of years later I ended up opening a gallery, and now I work for myself full time, taking photos and selling prints.
That's awesome, living the dream. And what camera gear do you shoot with, just to placate all us camera nerds out there?
I've got
GoPro.
I've got about 6 GoPros, and I'm currently using Canon 5D3s and various L series lenses. But most of the time, all of that's housed in Aquatech water housings, because I spend most of the time in the ocean.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if people want to check out your photos, maybe while they're listening, what's your Instagram or your website?
Cool, an early plug. I'm into that. That's cool. My website is warrenkeelan.com. So Warren, WarrenKeelan.com, or my Instagram's just the same, Warren Keelan.
Awesome. So this is Shoot First, Questions Later, and we're going to start off by talking about what we've photographed in the last week. And to kick it off, all three of us actually hung out this morning, took some photos, didn't we? Where'd we go, Will?
Okay, yeah, surf's been pretty big this week. So we decided, we met up this morning and shot a few waves just by the coast. And for me personally, that's kind of been the theme of the week, just with this swell around. Trying to get out there, tagging Judah along, my son, just chasing pretty nice light actually. A couple of rainbows around and things like that. So yeah, just local for the past week for me, and getting out and having some fun, splashing around. Probably, I think I might have got a few keepers as well, but yet to be determined. What about you?
Not much of note this week, apart from this morning. It was like my first sunrise in ages, so I pulled myself out of bed. It was so worth it. He's keen to start doing that a bit more. But we got like surprisingly good light. It looked really overcast and that, and then the sun just emerged in this fiery ball behind the clouds and the rain, and it was pretty fun.
Pretty incredible. I've seen a lot of sunrises, as you have, Will, and you too, Cam. But I wasn't expecting that. That was really cool. There's like this squall out to sea, and I thought it was going to come past and just completely blind the sunrise. Next thing you know is like orange ball, and everything was almost neon for like half an hour. It was
bit
crazy.
Of rain hanging around, and just lingered for so long. It's just one of those ones where you're just like in awe, just like putting the camera down every few minutes and just kind of looking up and shaking your head a little bit.
Even his son was like, "Dad, that looks cool."
Yeah, he was frothing on it, which is gets me stoked.
Warren, we had a bit of rain. I think it was a lot of rain. Was it Monday? And I saw you were out in the water.
Oh yeah,
yeah, tons of rain. If I'm wrong, that's okay.
Oh no, I every day's a blur. Like when you work for yourself, you kind of like, it's a 7-day job, and I seriously have no idea
when he started
what
saying that.
I
was just thinking, what day is it even now? Seriously.
But yeah, no, I went out there. Just I shoot until dark, and then swim back in. And most of the time, I'm not even taking photos. I'm just releasing thoughts and stuff out there, and getting exercise and coming back feeling a lot better.
That's the thing with the ocean as well. you just can't predict what it's going to do. So just putting yourself out there and in the moment, you're just exposing yourself to the possibilities then, I guess. Whereas if you just rule it out early, then you could just miss something and then you're just going to be kicking yourself, I guess.
And how many times have we done that?
Oh, yeah, we still do it all the time anyway.
Especially with those darn rainbows. I'm hooked on those at the moment because of this time of year as well.
Yeah.
You know, we could be torrential rain and then a half an hour later it's just got amazing light.
There was one this morning after we shot the sunrise on the way home. I dropped my son off at preschool and probably one of the most vibrant I've ever seen. Like it looked weird, like neon 3-dimensional type rainbow, double rainbow. And then there was one this afternoon. I was cooking dinner and looked out and I just went, "Oh, you're kidding me!" And they're just so quick sometimes. It's like there's no point even trying to get out there and get it. It's just over and done with.
You know, and I was still on the rocks shooting waves at that time, and I turned around and I was shooting with a good mate, Dave Sanford. He's over from Canada, and he had a 600 mm
He's
lens.
a top bloke, by the way. Just as a little plug for Dave. He's a really nice guy. Yep.
Sure is, man. And he was shooting with a 600, so he wasn't even like focused on that. I turned around and I saw this. It was almost like, you know, in Hawaii, you get those really sort of very low. They're not even just almost surface shaped rainbows, but it was so vibrant. It was almost a double there, and it would have been about the same time as you said.
Yeah, it must have been the same one we saw.
I tell you, this afternoon I was going to pack it in. I was going to go for a bit of a snooze before I come around and see you guys. But then I ended up going down the beach and got to Flagstaff Hill, and there was a right-hand side of a rainbow forming, but you could see it coming from the ocean straight to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And by the time I got into my car, drove back up to Flagstaff Hill, it was a full, complete rainbow over the harbour, vibrant as anything, beautiful colours, and missed everything. I used to have this, you know, there's this fear of missing out, and now it's like you got to laugh. You just got to go, oh well, saw some of it.
So did you have your camera with you? No, you didn't.
I had everything with me. That's what that kind of hurts a little bit because I was anticipating it, and I failed.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That fear of missing out, but yeah, after a while, it's just like whatever. It's going to come back. It will come back. Whatever it is, whatever you miss, at the end of the day, it comes back around eventually.
Preparation prevents. Yeah, no, I did. I watched it, and then I got into a wetsuit, got some camera gear down, went down to the beach. Went down to the rocks and sat there, and just sat there, and it was like brown sludge ocean. It was it just didn't look healthy to be in. I didn't have any earplugs either, so I think I bailed on that.
A bit of the rain, it washes. Yeah.
You can imagine everything in all the streets from high up just gets all torrented down into the gutters and then goes out and just sort of swimming in it.
Yeah.
It's not real nice.
So anyway, we're gonna jump into a question now from a listener, and Will, would you like to do the honours?
Indeed, when I know the question. All right, here we go. So we've got Jared Mager. Sorry, Jared, if I didn't pronounce that properly. Mager. And he's got a great question here, and perfect for having Wazza on this week as well. So the question is, at the moment, I've been shooting for 3 years. I'm looking to turn photography into a source of income, not full-time, just a little bit on the side. I've tried advertising my print on Instagram and my website, but no one seems interested. Thoughts? And then he says, do you think that attending markets with prints and order forms is a good way to grow a following and a client base? Another loaded question. We get the loaded questions. So, he's just saying he wants to get a bit of income out of photography, just a bit on the side. He's tried advertising his prints on the website and attending markets and things like that. So, essentially, he's kind of wondering what's the best way to go about it at the end of the day. Selling prints.
And, Warren, you clearly have a fair bit of experience with prints, having your own gallery and, you know, probably starting off prints at markets and whatnot. Why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, no worries. I guess I could talk about myself, just how I got into it to start with, and then see how that can maybe relate.
We're not interested in that, mate, actually.
I thought
that would be
was-
perfect.
Isn't
man.
it? Is the plug over?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you've had your 5 minutes.
Don't.
That's what your $15 gets you, mate.
Hey, I got a black coffee out of it, so I'm stoked. I reckon, print's old. Print. So in some people's eyes, in photography, print is just old school, and I went down that path. Like, I'm a bit older than some of the guys that are into photography now, but I love the medium of print, and when I first started photography, I did the markets, and I scrambled all the gear together, and I sort of had no idea what I was doing, and rocked up to, I think it was the Berry markets and then the Kiama markets, and I bought a marquee, and I think I outlaid $1,000 worth of marquee and tables and everything and prints, and you get down there and you got to take 2 cars and you got to be down there at 6 o'clock, and it's a lot of hard work, and you don't know if anyone's going to come, and then you get down there and it just southerly wind blows and it rains, and all day your gear gets wet and everything blows over and smashes, and you lose about $400 worth of gear, and then you just inside you're trying to be professional, but you're crying. All you want to do is click your heels and just wake up at home, and then you just got to push through, and then I think it's like eventually after doing 4 or 5 markets, I had some return, I'd say, customers, and they'd buy some things off me, which was really cool, and it gives you the inspiration to kind of say, is this the right thing? And sometimes it is for some people. So I did that, and I wound up selling prints out of a gallery, but it's all due to circumstance as well. So if I had a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to do this, as extensively as I have. But
yeah, it's pretty hard to commit to going to markets each week, or even just self-promotion online. Like, when you're having a full-time job, you're trying to juggle 2 jobs almost, and Jared's saying here, income on the side, but to just get that little bit of income on the side from photography in this day and age, it's not as simple as just to put an Instagram photo up each night, really, at the end of the day, especially when you're starting out anyway.
Yep. And you know yourself, Will, you're top of the game when it comes to social media marketing, and how much...
WilliamPatino.com if you're listening.
WilliamPatino.com. And
it's interesting because having you here, you sell prints pretty much like full time. You've got a gallery, and I'm a professional landscape photographer, and I pretty much don't sell any prints. Like, you and me, we're in the way as a business perspective, it's like 2 different worlds essentially. And someone like Jared who's asked this question, and I get a lot of people inquiring, you sell a lot of prints, and I actually don't. Like,
I might have to buy one off you then.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, it's bizarre. I think I wouldn't say a misconception, but I think it's interesting times we live in where, and I often say to people, I think there's a bit of, the prints aren't as valued as much as they perhaps were a decade ago or longer. We live in this time where everyone's just so fixated on looking at their screens and being bombarded with images 24/7. I feel like there's almost no need. Well, obviously, there is still this demand, but a lot of people probably wouldn't even consider putting something on the wall when they're too busy looking down at the screen all day.
I completely agree. 15 years ago, I'll even bring our printer into this. He took a couple of years off and toured Australia with medium format film cameras, and he was visiting places that only sort of Ken Duncan or Peter Lick had been to before.
Yeah.
And he was shooting with such high quality film gear, and the reproductions of those were just incredible.
Yeah.
And you just can't get the same out of a digital camera, or you couldn't up until a few years ago. But yeah, there was a demand for prints, and there
he
was
had
this
galleries, and he was able to
galleries. It was like a real prestigious thing, and to sell something was like not only rewarding, but it was you could see longevity in it. You could make some money on it. You could actually put value on these prints. But now, I guess that's the same discussion that I guess we all have every time we meet up, is that digital cameras are becoming cheaper, and it's so accessible for everyone now to actually make their own photos. It's kind of hard to sell prints of your stuff when people can just go out and try to do it themselves. Yeah. So
do you reckon, Jared's saying start at the markets. I think it's about marketing yourself in a certain way. Are you the guy that sells prints, or are you the guy that does online tutorials or workshops, whatever it is? say for me, for example, I don't like to market myself at all, really. None of us do. But when I do, it's more about the workshops I run, whatever it is. For you, it's obviously about selling print. So I think for Jared here, it's about just having that clear indication that this is what I do and kind of getting that into people's mind, maybe planting the seed. There's even a lot of guys that I look up to from the States and around the world, and like guys at the top of the game in landscape photography, and they're not really selling prints either, but at the same time, they don't advertise that they can sell the prints. So I think it's more the marketing angle, market yourself as this is what I do and I do it well.
If you look at like the top of the pinnacle of landscape photography in Australia going back probably 5 years ago, and for me that would have been someone like Peter Lick. Although, I don't know how technical his photos are, but his marketing was incredible. And at one stage he had, I believe, probably 6 or 7 galleries up and down the east coast of Australia. And I think they closed the last one in Noosa just recently.
There's none left in
Whether
Australia.
that's from just the demographic from the area, or he's outpriced everything, or his market's now, high end.
Las Vegas.
Las
it's
Vegas.
all in Vegas now, where the money is.
He only has to sell one print to
pay the bills.
To pay the bills. But then you look at that, and if you think that, and you transpose that down to all us little guys who are trying to make a name for ourselves and sell prints for a living, you can see some sort of similarity going on there too.
Yeah.
He's whether he's found it tough or he's needed to expand into a new market. But
on the upper end, though, I've seen, sorry to cut you off, Eugene Tan, Aquabumps. I think he's just opened a second gallery in the Rocks in Sydney. He's always had the Bondi Gallery.
Yep.
And I heard recently he's opened up a second one, which really shocked me because mainly what I'm hearing is guys closing galleries down, Peter Lick, for example, and then just hearing that Eugene's opened up a second one, it actually really surprised me. And I'm stoked. I'm glad to hear that, unless I've been misinformed. Have you heard about that at all?
Just sort of on the outskirts, I believe it's a pop-up shop.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was a full
Maybe
gallery. I
right.
could be wrong.
This is just through the grapevine.
And
okay.
The guy, I get a lot of inspiration from Eugene. He's a great guy, and his photography is really great. And but also to his background, I believe he was a graphic designer, and he also got into photography, and he did it well from the start. And he's got some really good support from his wife.
Yeah.
And demographically, you can't get a better amphitheatre. To sell photos of Australia either. And if you do it well, I think that there's a recipe there for success.
Yeah.
But coming back to Jared, I believe that you just got to give it a go, because I think your product not only comes down to your photography, it comes down to you, and people buy things because they either like you or respect you, or they find you interesting, hopefully. And I think that's one of the main things.
And I guess something like the markets is a good way to get that face-to-face interaction with people and develop relationships.
It really is, and you can gauge that. You just don't shy away from it just because you might not think it will work.
Yeah.
Just
And there's so many people that aren't on Instagram. Like we live in this time where Instagram, we ramble about this every week pretty much, but getting out there and speaking to people face-to-face, there's a lot of people that wouldn't even know what Instagram is, and they're happy to see someone selling photos down at the markets.
Well, if you just a little insight into what I've learned over the last few years is, we think that Instagram's the be-all and end-all of, in brackets, in vertical commas, photography. But here's the thing: like people, if you want to be successful in selling prints for a living, you've got a product and you've got a physical product. The people that are out there with a disposable income who have that money to spend on your prints, not necessarily sort of the everyday people, but like when I say that, I mean like there's doctors and lawyers and accountants and people like that who have all the money in the world, but they have no idea what Instagram is. So you've got to attack all angles, and you've got to find that that market for it to work.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know about these, full-time professionals here, but I have one surefire way to sell prints every time, and that is hit up your parents. I mean, they're always going to be your biggest fan, so they'll give you some coin to print up a photo from your printer in your office. And
not gonna lie, Mum's my number one fan. She's buying too many. I'm just like, where are you going to put that one? I'm not complaining though.
So forget about, Jared, just forget about what these experienced professionals have said and listen to my advice, which is hit up your parents.
So, all right, quick in summary for Jared then, just 2 sentences. Just keep at it and just keep doing it. Just keep getting out there and try different locations perhaps. Diversify where you're putting work. Obviously, Instagram is the main one that everyone wants to go to, but maybe develop a website, make sure you're on Facebook, maybe even go to cafes and restaurants and see if they want to display some work on the walls there that could potentially be sold off to customers and things like that.
And don't underestimate the power of walking into a shop and putting your hand out and introducing yourself to people. And I did that when I first did my first exhibition. I went to every business in the Illawarra almost and walked in the door, and I got a lot of people looking over their glasses going, "Yeah, can I help you?" I put my hand out, introduced myself, and a small percentage of those people come back and bought prints off me, because it's you put yourself out there and people support it.
Yeah, that's really good advice from one very seasoned professional print seller. So we're going to go on to our next segment, which is breaking rules. And the first rule I'm going to break is we're not doing this segment. That's right. You've been pranked.
I was just looking at Cam, like shaking my head, like, "Nah, dude, we're not doing it."
Nah, we're just going to have a chat to Wazza and, talk to him a little bit about his work, talk to him about what he loves to shoot, maybe why he shoots it, just shoot a few questions at him and find out a bit more about him.
I think you've used the word shoot 7 times in that.
Shoot First Questions Later podcast on iTunes, and yeah, check us out. So Warren, I have to say that you're probably the most prolific print seller in Wollongong. Like, you've got a shop front. It's in a very present area in the city centre. How do you feel that's sort of affected your business? And like, you must see a lot of foot traffic in that area. Do you enjoy the shop front style of selling prints?
Yeah, for sure. I spent a lot of years in retail while I was a musician, and I sort of gained a lot of knowledge of how to
lure the suckers in.
Lure them in, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Oh, you just smashed my train of thought now. But no, that's all right. For me, it was just creating employment for myself as well. Like, I thought that was part of the challenge, was to derive an income from something you love doing. And through a few curveballs in my life that got me onto that path, I think the challenge is it was accepted, and I gave it my best shot. And I think that for everything that I learnt from the past sort of 10 years prior to that in retail and management and customer service, I've just used those sort of skills I have, and also blending them just with being myself. Like, I've had opportunities to put people in and staff members, but I just prefer to talk to people and give them a like an experience behind the photos as well. But yeah, your question was about the shop front. It was a catch-22. Like, I found people were they sort of come in and had an emotional attachment to something that was printed rather than just a virtual picture on a computer or a screen. And it was I had to do that in order.
There's nothing like seeing a photo printed, and I can't stress that enough. Like, for me, it's a huge honour whenever I get to print something and send it off. I'm just so stoked to see it as in a tangible form off a screen and see a physical product there. There's nothing like it, man. And whenever I've gone into your gallery or anyone's gallery, I've visited a few over the years, there's something else. There's something that can't be really described. It sounds a bit corny, but I really stress that for anyone listening. This is, sorry for the little pitch, but if you do see someone's photos that you like, just do them and yourself a favour and just pick one up. I've got a few from photographers over the years, and it's so nice to just look at instead of, like I say, on the screen. There's details there that just can't be shown through a little iPhone or a crappy laptop monitor or something like that.
I agree. There's something really overwhelmingly rewarding about, I guess, when you're a printer, when you print for a living, that becomes the final stage in it all. Just to see it sort of printed out and come to life, and then it's finished in a frame or whatever. But then, like you said, someone will buy that off you, and then that just takes that rewarding feeling the next step up. it's just incredibly rewarding. And I just found
Get him a tissue. He's starting to cry, I think.
Yeah. Just drink some more of that coffee. Hang on, I'm rambling on. What'd you put in this coffee, man? I'm really emotional.
In terms of your sort of shop front and your presence there, I found that was one of the most impactful parts of that for me personally, was that when I started photography, I walked into your shop not knowing you, and I was able to put a face to some amazing photos that were, hanging on a wall, and you were there as a person to talk to. Like, it wasn't someone online that I can, private message and not hear from ever again, sort of thing. That was impactful for me. And you mentioned earlier, off microphone, that you do have a lot of people coming in, wanting, people who want to take photos, and they get to have FaceTime with you. How do you find that sort of aspect of the shop front? Budding photographers coming in, talking to you.
Oh, it's the best feeling. It's kind of. I'm a people person. I worked from home for 5 years building websites, and I found myself becoming socially inept. I was just losing connection with people, and I found that social media just wasn't cutting it. It was like seeing people face to face and having coffee with them is real. But also to having people coming in and aspiring photographers, and they could see. That's part of the inspiration that I draw as well. As if someone finds what I do interesting and they come in and say, "Wow, that's pretty cool," although they have no idea about the risks and the stresses and the hours that go into it, at least they can come in and see what I've done. And you're basically putting your heart out there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice to get that appreciation face to face instead of maybe just a like on social media or something like that. Yeah. Definitely. I wanted to ask you, man, a little bit easy to answer perhaps. What's the biggest fail you've kind of had over the years with shooting? By fail, I just mean one of those real big blunders where it's just...
I guess gear loss is the worst, I think.
Yeah.
And for me, one day it was... I remember jumping off the rocks, swimming out. I think I took about 5 frames, got hit by a wave, duck dived, come back up, and... At that stage, I was using a 70-200 zoom, and the older housing ports that I used to use had a zoom control fixed to their port.
Oh, okay.
And for somehow,
was this the 2.8 70?
That's a 2.8.
Yeah, so this is this is not a cheap lens either.
No,
for the listeners.
And strangely enough, this lens, I was about $2,800 to replace this lens, and I just bought a 5D3, so I had a new camera, a new lens worth about.
I'm already cringing. I don't even know what
happens.
$5,500,
$6,000 just for the gear.
Toes are curling up.
It was crazy, and I jumped off the rocks, got smashed, broke this thing off. And I come up looking to shoot the next wave, and I was like looking for the zoom dial, and it wasn't there. And I looked in my camera in the port, everything was just salt water, filled up, just this case of salt water.
No.
And I remember the swim back to shore was about 200 meters, and I don't remember getting back. I think I was just filled with adrenaline. I was more worried about what my wife would say than anything, because coming back going...
I think every photographer knows that feeling. What's the partner going to say here?
And is our hey, Dale, is our insurance up to date?
Yeah, how's insurance?
So one of the things that was a bit of an insurance blunder was that I'd only acquired the port for that housing a few weeks prior, and I didn't list it on my insurance policy. And there's a couple of little things there that I won't go into, but unfortunately my insurance wasn't covered.
Little
so
clauses.
It was just completely. I lost about $6,000 that day, and so I had to claw that back from scratch. And that's one of the things that it was like
a lesson for everyone listening. I get asked about insurance a fair bit, and it's important, and to stay on top of it. And to be honest, I've bought some new gear over the last month, and I haven't even transferred all that across. So even I'm guilty of that. But it just shows how quick things can go wrong, just like that. And I remember now actually when that happened to you, and that not fun.
It knocks you. It really does. Because if they're the main tools of your trade and they're gone, and you can't replace them without going and getting a loan or some finance to keep going, and if you rely on it for your job, you're gone. You just
that's major.
You're in a hole for a little while.
You can buy a little car for that much money. It's ridiculous.
It is, but You know, you eventually, here's the thing, Bart, like if you're in water photography, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's always going to be a matter of when.
Yeah.
So keep it in the back of your mind that if you're into ocean photography, prepare to lose gear.
It's going to happen.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, touche. All right, so on the flip side, what about most memorable moment? I know it's a hard one to answer, but what's one of those moments where you just look back fondly and go, that's just the highlight for me, that shoot? One of them.
Let's bring up two.
All right.
One of them would be an image I had tried to sort of capture in my mind for ages and ages and ages. I saw a few people in Hawaii do it, and I think Clark Little was starting to get into them. And it's an underwater shot of a vortex. These are rings formed when waves hit, trap air, and the inertia of the rolling wave creates these orbiting rings of air. And I thought they looked incredible. I think they're really, really abstract. So I'd tried to capture them for months and months, and finally did it. And I did it on this morning, and I remember coming up and I was screaming like an idiot. I was on the beach just like, woo, and no one there except for the coffee shop guys opening up would have heard me. But I think that was one of the main things. And then I ended up, so it became an award-winning shot, and that became, one of my most rewarding shots.
That's amazing. And it's something that Will and I have discussed in a previous episode of this podcast even. It's that the importance of that pre-visualization for going out and taking a shot. If you can pre-visualize a photo and then work towards that goal, and then if you succeed, that's the most rewarding thing I've found in photography, hands down. And like you just said, you were screaming on the beach, and like Will and I have both been there, like just that moment. And that's like why I keep picking up a camera every day, I reckon. So that's awesome. That story is amazing to hear.
Thanks, Cam. Like, this might sound cheesy, but even to this day, my memory card has that file locked on it. I've actually saved it to it, and it's still on there. So every time I go out for a shoot, I've got this saved.
Note to self:
it's
to
locked
steal
on there.
Buzz's memory card.
Yeah, still. So it's that, and that's what.
So you don't format the card. It's like you just delete the rest and leave
just
that
delete the rest. Don't format the card. I've never had an issue.
So whenever you have a bad day, you can just like push play on the camera, and then you still see that shot, and you're like, it's all right. I got that one. Yeah, I like that idea actually.
I don't know, in terms of, like, technically, I probably should be formatting my cards because one day, but you know what?
It's overrated.
4 years, I haven't had an issue.
It's probably like it's a 4-year SD card. It's like 4 gigabytes max.
So come up, there's breaking the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Breaking the rules. Just, you don't need to get a big memory card. So what's number 2 then? You had 2.
2, I think, as a surfer and someone who spends a lot of time in the ocean, one of your greatest fears is seeing sharks. And, just
really?
coming across them.
What do you mean?
I can see a mermaid. But no, sharks, mate, they're just they're just, the more you learn about them, the safer you feel. Yeah. Obviously in the water, but I went down to, coming back to Dave Sanford. He came over from Canada and he loves sharks, and we made a trip down to Port Lincoln and went out to the Neptune Islands, and we jumped in this little cage, and just the trip itself was a nightmare because you're leaving Port Lincoln and you're entering 4 to 5 meter swell, and it takes you nearly 4 hours by boat to get to this place, and 90% of the people on board from all around the world are sick. They can't even stand up. They're just
questioning what you're getting yourself into.
Just zombies. Yeah, so by the time you get out there, it's just a rewarding feeling just getting there, let alone putting a cage off the back of the boat and put a bit of burley in the water, and it's like 5 meter great white just comes out and breaches out of the water.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of shivering, you're shaking, you're excited, and then you put on this, it's like a 6mm dive suit, about 25 kilos of body weights, and then you got to kind of scurry from the main boat off to a tethered cage, and then for the photographers, they allow this other cage to be submersed in the water, and it's only maybe 1 meter by 1.5 meters, and it looks like an inverted shopping trolley.
It's got extra burley around it, that one.
You create that when you get in there. so, and if you fall in, your guts. So we just you lift the top on and you jump in, and you've got a regulator, and you get in there, and it's down you go, and you're looking around in this blue water, and you're just seeing these like brown submarines in the water, and it's just the most amazing, overwhelming feeling. Here we go again. Can you
brown submarine.
Grey
the burley.
Submarines. Yeah, it was just shooting.
He's got his mind on the fear factor.
And then all that fear goes out the window.
Yeah.
It's like being in a 3D Universal Studio ride. It's just incredible. You're looking at these intelligent creatures, and they're only half a foot away from you, with these eyeballs looking at you as they go past. And you spend the next hour down there doing it.
That's like a fear and respect and
it's crazy.
And everything, yeah. Was there a specific photo with this trip, or was more the moment in general? Just
It was the moment for me, but
experience?
what actually tipped it off was there were 3 guys, and they would have been late 80s, early 90s. Really frail guys, and they were all crook from the trip over, but they were doing their last, like their bucket list.
Yeah.
So best mates, they got all the way out there. They made it all the way out there, crook as anything, spewing their guts up. And we got them in. We helped them into these suits, and if you can imagine, these guys can't really, so not really limber.
And they went.
Yeah,
We saw 'em
and they
again.
went. But 2 of them had never been in the water. 2 of them had never even put a mask on, let alone a breathing apparatus.
Legends.
And then getting onto this cage and getting into the water, and they got down and they hung on, and I didn't expect them to be down for so long, but you got 45 minutes or more. They were up within 25 minutes because they're just cold, it's just cold. And they'd had enough, and they got out. And I'll never forget this. They sat down. Two of them sat down. The other one stood up, and the 2 took off their wetsuits and just cried uncontrollably for like 20 minutes straight. It was, and I think it was more. Not only was it the fact that they saw sharks and experienced what they did, but also too. One of them said, "I can't believe we left it so long to do something this cool."
That's powerful.
And there wasn't almost a dry eye in the boat, and that for me is what I took away from the entire trip was pretty much that. It was crazy. So
such a strong,
So what? In saying that, just to wrap that up, just do everything you can.
Yeah.
Don't leave things.
Yeah, life's too short, eh? And I've seen some of your shots of the sharks there, and I got to admit, hearing this story now, it just enhances it so much for me, and that's what I love about taking the time to get to know someone or sharing the stories behind the photos, because every photo we see, there's a full backstory behind it. So thanks for sharing that, man. That's awesome.
Pleasure.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on, Warren. We're going to wrap it up there, but no, you've been a great, source of knowledge and conversation. So thanks for that.
Cam. Thank you, mate.
And just one more time, what was your what would you like to plug for the listeners to check your work out?
It's a bit weird, isn't it? Just doing check me out.
He's too humble.
No,
not too late. Cut the tape.
So, just visit williampatino.com.
Checks in the mail.
So it's Instagram is Warren Keelan, WARREN KEELAN, and the same web address, but just add a .com.
Awesome. And thanks for your question earlier, Jared. And that's Jared Mayger on Instagram, JARED MAYGER. And if you want to submit your own questions to the pod, you can email us at shootfirstpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Cheers, mate.
I'm really stoked that you guys are doing this and allowing someone like me to come on board and chinwag for a little while.
It's a pleasure,
so
mate.
Cool.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone who's subscribed and left a review and a rating on iTunes or wherever you are streaming the podcasts from. Really appreciate it. Catch you next episode. Cheers. Yo, 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 yo.
Oh, straight.